This is the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast for the week of April 13, 2014. I am the Celebrity Medium. Let's get right into this week's gossip from the next world, shall we? You probably heard the song, If There's a Rock and Roll Heaven. You know they've got a hell of a band. Well, as it turns out, they do. According to my Afterlife paparazzi sources, a trio of rock and roll royalty has gotten together to form a supergroup. Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, and Janis Joplin are touring with the band they call The Legends. John Bonham from Led Zeppelin is playing the drums for The Legends, and my sources tell me the band sounds terrific. One who has spoken to Hendrix reports that Jimmy says he's having a great time and can't wait to take the stage every night. At one recent performance, the audience was thrilled when John Lennon and George Harrison sat in for a set. The highlight was a rousing rendition of Come Together, which featured solos from Hendrix, Lennon, and Harrison, their first time sharing a stage. Jim Hellwig, better known as the Ultimate Warrior, his professional wrestling persona, just arrived in the next world. My source tells me that he almost immediately got into a hassle with someone who had the temerity to greet him as Jim rather than Warrior, the name he legally adopted several years ago on the earthly plane. He calmly told the man his name was Warrior, but quickly became angry when the man laughed and continued to call him Jim. My source says that Warrior was visibly trying to contain himself, but finally couldn't hold it in anymore and started to move toward the man. It took several people to restrain him as they told the man to take off. Only when he had disappeared did they release Warrior. It took several minutes to calm down. Sounds like someone's having a difficult transition to the afterlife. He is hoping Warrior can make the adjustment quickly. Mao Zedong, the former leader of communist China, and Kim Jong-il, his counterpart in North Korea, have both been residents of the afterlife for some time now. Until now, they have been keeping low profiles, staying out of the public eye. Now, according to my source, they have apparently decided to step back into the spotlight. They have just announced a project they've been working on behind the scenes for some time, a theme park called the People's Land. Not much is known about it, but a source who claims to have seen some blueprints described it to me as an idealized version of the utopias that Mao and Kim's countries were supposed to be. Just before recording this report, a second source told me that the two autocrats contacted Walt Disney early in the planning stages of the park to ask him for help with the design. Uncle Walt reportedly told him he wanted nothing to do with the project and laughed in their faces before leaving the meeting. Seems that some things don't change even in the afterlife. Elvis Presley was, of course, an extremely popular performer on the earthly plane. According to my Next World paparazzi sources, the king has gotten so tired of being mobbed everywhere he goes in the afterlife that he's decided to change his appearance in an attempt to fool his most rabid fans. Elvis has confided in a few friends that he plans on, okay, get this, shaving all his hair off. The friends have tried to talk Elvis into doing something less drastic, like just bleaching his hair, but Presley doesn't think that going blonde would be enough of a disguise. We will, of course, keep you informed as to whether or not a cue ball Elvis is able to maintain his privacy. Next, we have a heartwarming story from the next world. Former Vice President of the United States and New York State Governor Nelson Rockefeller has teamed up with brilliant and eccentric inventor Nikola Tesla to teach reading skills to children in the afterlife. The only snag my sources tell me is Tesla's debilitating fear of spherical objects, which makes it difficult for him to walk past the playground next to the school where he and Rockefeller are teaching. Before we leave you, I have a correction to a story from last week. I told you that actor Heath Ledger has become a Scrabble aficionado and that he finished a recent Next World tournament in 10th place. The Dark Knight star actually came in 8th. We regret the error and apologize to Mr. Ledger. That'll do it for this week's Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast. Be sure to listen next week when we have more of the best celebrity gossip from the next world. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Celebrity Afterlife Report podcast. To ask a question about your favorite deceased celebrity, call 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-3-MY-DREAM. 818-369-3732.